Namaste, good morning, and a very warm welcome to all of you. I'm Stuti Chaudhary, your host for the day, and on behalf of JSW and the Times of India, I welcome you all to the second outreach event under the ambit of the 11th edition of the Earth Care Awards. Started in the year 2008, the Earth Care Awards, a joint initiative of JSW and the Times of India group, have been recognizing and championing efforts towards climate mitigation and adaptation. Think Through Consulting is our knowledge partner for the initiative. India Climate Collaborative and the Council on Energy, Environment and Water are supporting us in outreach. We'd also like to mention, please do visit our website, that is www.earthcareawards.com, to know about the categories, the past winners, and surely participate and let the world know about your initiative. With this brief introduction about the awards, I once again welcome you all to the second outreach event, a panel discussion on building resilience together, communities for climate action. With this, I would like to request Rupa Dawani to please kindly join me on the stage and render the welcome address. She is the head, Water, Environment and Sanitation, JSW Foundation, and she'll take us through the 10-year journey of Earth Care Awards. Rupa is a master's in environmental science and an MBA, and comes with a vast experience in the field of environmental management for over 25 years. She brings passion while working with the community. Conservation and management of water resources are her areas of specialization. I would like to request you to please kindly come onto the stage now.
Thank you so much, Shruti. I welcome once again all of you all. The fact that we are here means we don't need to talk about climate change. All of you all are definitely more sensitive, and hence the effort that we've taken. As Shruti has set the context saying Earth Care Awards and what they mean. So Earth Care Awards were constituted way back in 2008 by JSW and Times of India. And I think at that time people were not even talking about climate change. So I think it goes to say a lot about the concern and the issues and the initiatives that are here. Since 2008, we have lauded about 79 to 80 climate heroes in our various categories. So this is the journey that Earth Care Awards has been going through. We started in 2008 with a humble 50 applicants, which has moved on, year on year. It's been gaining more and more popularity. People are looking at the climate change. It's hitting you in the face. Everybody thought it's going to take 25 years, 30 years, People are still talking. And now we know all the extremities that are happening. You have heavy rainfall, extreme drought, snowfalls still happening in Himachal and Ladakh, which is unheard of. One of my son's friend is just, visiting us. He's from Ladakh, and he says, we've never seen snow in May, this is their summertime. So when we talk about snow in Himachal and Ladakh, we have 45 degrees and 47 degrees in Bombay, which is unheard of. So the climate change vagaries, the extremities that we are seeing, and all of us here, we definitely, put our heads together and see what more can be done. We have a very esteemed jury. Dr. Mashelkar has been head of our jury for last 5, 6, 7 cycles. They bring a lot of experience. You see the names, all of them giving us, they bring so much to the table. We laud people in climate change heroes in the various 6 categories. And today's category, the one that we are concentrating today is communities for climate action. I think that, what better than the audience here and the area that we are in, the beautiful northeast of India. There's so much to be done, and so much is being done. Hence we are here. We are, like Shruti said, please go to the website, visit the website. More and more people applying, they come to the forefront, they come to the limelight, and that's when we'll be able to work with them. These have been our past winners in the community category. We have HSBC, though it looks like a bank, they're doing a lot. The foundation is doing a lot with the communities. We have Gram Vikas, which is our last year's winner. They've worked extensively in the Orissa. We have ITC, we have PSI, who have done extensive work in Nagaland in spring shed development. I think it's the lifeline, the springs that bring water to the communities year on year, and how they've been deteriorating because of the anthropological activities, how we can serve to work towards saving them. We've had the RBS Bank, we have Solidarity Diet. In fact, Solidarity Diet is working extensively in Bangladesh. We have News who are working on mangroves conservation in Sundarbans. All the extremes that we hear on the eastern coast, various cyclones. I think I shouldn't be saying anything to all of you. You all are so well conversed. Practical action, again, these have been our past winners. So many of them, safe. The list just goes on. There are so many action heroes. The way we carry Times of India being our media partner, they're the experts in this. All the reports are carried in Times of India, main newspapers, ET, and the regional newspapers all along to give you the publicity that it needs. Of course, social media is currently abuzz with various initiatives that we undertake. I mean, all the social media that one talks about, right? I'm a little old, my son calls me from the dinosaur age, so when I start talking about social media, I can only talk about, say, WhatsApp at the most. I don't go beyond that. And today's event is, like I said, climate action throughout the community. Extremely important sector that is there. It's the niche that reaches the people, actually. You know, when the others are large-scale industry and the urban bodies, you have innovators, we have women in the climate action space. This year we are in fact introducing a new category. We want to see the youth participation in the climate action space. I think that's where we really need. With this, I would request all of you all to go through our website and check where we can apply. Can you encourage your friends or any other colleagues or organizations that you know who are in this space, can be brought to the forefront where we can laud them. I end my small introduction to Times of India, and I'm sure, I mean, to Earthcare Awards, and I'm waiting for the panel discussion to start, which is going to be really very, very invigorating. So much information. Welcome all of you all once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupa. I would now like to request our keynote speaker, Dr. Arup Kumar Misra, Chairman, Pollution Control Board, Assam, to please kindly come onto the stage. Dr. Misra is the Chairman of the Pollution Control Board, Assam. Before that, he was the Director of Assam Science Technology and Environment Council and Director of Assam Energy Development Agency, both nodal agencies of Government of Assam for more than 5 years. Dr. Misra taught in the Department of Chemical Engineering of Assam Engineering College for almost 25 years. And his areas of interest are environmental engineering, sustainable development, green engineering, etc. Sir, could you please have you on the stage?
Very good morning to all the delegates, participants, and organizers of this really interesting and important event. We in Assam are very proud of our one and only hero, Mahapurush Srimanta Shankardev. Those who are not from Assam, for their information, let me tell you, when the society was in shatters and lots of tribes tried to prove their supremacy, a lot of kings had gone into war at that time in the 15th century. Srimanta Shankardev took birth in Assam, not very far from here, in Bordua, near Nagaon. Why he is important even today? He is the first person in this country to create something for community interaction called Namghar. It is not a temple. Mandir or temple is something where you go to have prayers and religious discourses. But Mahapurush Shankardev used the Namghars, the community centers, for socio-cultural exchanges and all sorts of things that we are now in modern times talking about. We talk about conservation, we talk about preservation, we talk about biodiversity. If you go to the writings of Mahapurush Srimanta Shankardev, which is translated into all the languages in the world, you will find that he had laid the foundation in those days itself. 15th and 16th century was the defining period for Assam, and we still have lots of good practices. In television, sometimes you will see that near Jagi Road, during Junbil Mela or something like that, the Tiwa community, they come for community fishing. Who gave this concept of community fishing? Some weak person, some young child or old man may not be catching good fish on a community fishing day. But the rule was that at the end of the day, you come, you look at your catch fish, and all families will equally distribute. You talk about sericulture. Assam is famous for the golden thread, muga, not found anywhere in the world. Aryan muga are endemic to Assam. Mahaprabhu Shankardev, during his time, and his followers later on, Madhavdev, etc., they all propagated this idea that this particular somoni, or the, what do you say, that park or farming land is not owned by a person, it's owned by the community. So the concepts of democracy, democratic traditions, social justice, equity that we talk about nowadays, and what not, all were rooted in his teachings, his preachings, his writings. It is not William Wordsworth or Shakespeare who had gone for some sort of a theater through background we call Chino Jatra. It was Mahaprabhu Shankardev who had started this tradition of making paintings and depicting the things of all the mythological stories and tales. Now you might be wondering why I am saying all these things. Because Northeast India as a whole, and Assam in particular, has this tradition of social justice, empowerment, and the biggest thing is that community action. I'm not going to talk about different parts of India. There must be definitely a lot of good efforts. The type of movement, especially for water, for agriculture, for conservation, etc., have taken place everywhere, no doubt about that. But sometimes it is serendipity, or it's sometimes, out of compulsion that people try to develop certain systems which ultimately is a champion of climate change mitigation. I was fortunate around 2015-16, I just joined Aztec, and then I went to Titabor side, Morioni in Jorhat, and one of my friends told me, let's go to see a wonderful place where Amur falcons come for breeding. And the place is called Pangti. If you go about 1.5 hour journey from Merapani towards Nagaland, you come across Pangti, where the Doyang Hydel project was operating since 2012. Originally, because of that particular project, the upstream agricultural land was lost, and you had only some ponds, huge ponds. People were in real distress, local people were in distress. But later on, some youth, today we are talking about youth empowerment, bringing youth into our folds to fight climate change and so on and so forth. Youth of the village, they heard from some friends, and they went somewhere that say that clear water is not adequate for giving all the nutrients whereby wild avifauna or migratory birds might come. Clear water is not good, simple lake water. So you have to have something. So there was water hyacinth planted into that. I mean, the meteka boli kita semis, pani meteka. Water hyacinth was put, and you'll be surprised. Birds which used to come to the Kopili site in Umrangshu, North Kachar Hills, same bird didn't come to Umrangshu that year. It shifted to that area in Pangti, in that 4,800 square kilometer lake, square meter lake. Now, if you go to Pangti village, you will find Every house is prepared to have homestay facility. They provide food and potable water to people. They provide guideship. They have small boat. We talk about, we go gaga over shikaras in Dal Lake. Similar, Dal Lake is also there here, but people do not know about that. It's not much publicized about Pangti village and its community development work for breeding or giving shelter, habitat to Amur falcon and so on and so forth. Now, the most important point is that when we ask the youth that you are capturing all the rainwater and other water coming from the dam site, Doyang project site, in your place, what will happen to downstream? No, sir, we have also got solution for that. They have a couple of small gates, sluice gates, through which they open the water when the cattle and people downstream are suffering for water. Wonderful example of community action by youth to uplift their area and village economically, also to provide water to downstream people who are thirsty for water and the cattle who are also thirsty for water in dry season. This type of examples, ladies and gentlemen, you will get everywhere. Just go to, while we go to Majuli from Nimati Ghat side, if you go to Nimati area, before reaching the Ghat Nimati, on both sides, you have a place called Rongdoi. In Rongdoi area, from the road when you are traveling in a vehicle, both sides you find huge wetlands which are maintained by local people. I repeat again, which are maintained by community, no individual ownership, which is also a great place for sustainable migratory birds, habitat, and similar things. Haria. When we say Haria, some people only think about the, tea garden community where, some local made liquor is kept in the pot and from there people drink. Haria is not the meaning of a drink, or Haria is not the meaning of some only locally brewed alcoholic beverage. Haria is the system by which, if you have people who are having distress for water in a village, or who are having some problems of approaching their agricultural land, sometimes it so happens from the road you have first plot, second plot, third plot, like that. In Haria system, in a community, long back people made a rule that the last person who has the land, most unapproachable, will have to do his agricultural practice first. And for that, the entire village will give their shramdan. We say shramdan, giving your labor. Whole village will say that you first sow your land. They will first put the seedlings and the kothia, in Ohmia we say kothia, in the dhan kheti, and then gradually from the last plot till the first plot, they will come, so that without going through the first plot and ruining some of the plant, you can go approach the last plot and come from that area. This is also part of Haria. I have seen in the literature. Haria is community agriculture. Haria is, after 4 or 5 years, thatch roof hut, all the straw, hay has to be changed in the ceiling. All people of the village come without asking for any gains, any money. They will give shramdan and do. Now, what is climate change mitigation? It's only a big term in 21st century. We say that these are the big terms which people have been practicing for a long time, not properly documented or publicized. A child born today, 30th of May 2023, will live in his lifetime, he will have 7 times more heat wave than his forefathers and fathers. He will have 3 times more wildfires. He will have 3 times more drought. She spoke about droughts and other extreme events. Yes, we have seen that. In midst of drought, suddenly you find Krishnai in Goalpara area. One night, whole water rushes down from the Meghalaya foothills, and 30 feet, 40 feet water is collected. Hundreds of people lose their life in a single night. Flash floods, cloud burst, landslide. Even today, I like to go, but I'm scared to travel on my official duty to Silchar, Karimganj by road. Because you never know in Sonapur and Kalain how the road behaves with you, how the landslide will be. Because I have had experience. While doing Children's Science Congress in my young days, 1994-95, my friend Navakumar Das and myself, we had to wait in the bus for 6 hours for the administration and police to clear the road. And all night super buses were on the national highway. So we have in Assam and Northeast genuine problems of what you call nowadays, I repeat again, climate change effect. All these things are climate change effect. Abnormal temperatures, sub-zero temperatures in places where there were no earlier records, droughts, wildfires, heat waves, all these things are now becoming very common, and therefore entire youth population. Once in a television show, one person was asking me about the IT revolution in India and saying, the anchor was asking me in Doordarshan, national media, sir, don't you feel that India's rich young population is our strength? What do you think about that? I said, today it's a demographic dividend for us today. It's a boon. But if we don't work in the next 5 year, 10 year, then this demographic dividend will become demographic disaster. 10 years or 15 years to 35 years population is the most, in any democratic country in the world. Japan is the just opposite. Old people are much more. So India's demographic dividend means utilizing the youth for all types of development activities. We in the government, my pollution control board is part of the Environment Forest Department Ministry, and there are many other bodies out here who represent the government. We always talk about empowering youth. Have we given them enough opportunities to sit with us in the forum, in the discussions, conferences? I doubt. We all adults, seniors who are about to retire from service, we take decisions in AC rooms about what is to be done for climate change mitigation in Assam. We draw big plans, schemes, talk about strategies, but how many youth in practice who are from the rural settings, who are from the urban settings, how many youth are invited to take part in those discussions and events like that? Now that people like Times of India and JSW Group are coming up, they have also awards for youth. Things are changing a little bit. But those changes cannot be some small dots in the whole canvas. It has to completely infest the entire canvas. Full canvas should be full of young people who are going to live in that, I said, 7 times more heat waves, 3 times more drought, 3 times more wildfires. You remember last year's Pakistan and Australia floods. Did it ever happen in history? Such floods? You remember Europe wildfires. We all heard about wildfires in Australia, and we heard about in California of USA. But Europe last year had devastating wildfires. So things are real. One member of parliament in Britain, some 15 years back, he says, when has the globe, Earth, not seen climate change? We already had 5 ice ages. We already have had five ice ages. So what is new there? Ice age comes, what in our Hindu Shastra we say Mahapralaya, and Noah's Ark is there, and Noah will take all the species and save in the next, reconstruction of the earth. Plimer had written a book, 350 pages, with case studies and histories, and saying that earth is not what is said today. Lot of international politics also are involved there. This rating of washing machine and refrigerator, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, made by companies, and selling all the gadgets to the developing countries, all these things. I'm not saying that he saw a politics in that, because when the wars will come to an end, there is no war apparently in the world. America's biggest industry, selling arms and ammunition, also comes to a grinding halt. They have real problem. So now they have to find out a second way, and second way was, tell people there is climate change. Tell people you will perish, you will die. No food, no water. You tell all these things and try to sell your gadgets as much as possible. That was 15, 20 years back. today it is not the case. No longer climate change is a myth, it's a reality. Climate change is a reality, it's no longer a myth, and therefore we all have to come together. There are good speakers who have done work. Rijwan is there, Partho is there representing Aranyak, whom I consider to be not only Assam's but India's one of the pioneer institutions, NGOs who has done work. My earlier colleague and now director of Aztec, Joydeep, is there. Dipankar Sahoria is there from TERI. A lot of people are there. So let us also hear what they have to say. But at the end of this particular event, I just wish that it doesn't become all this one-off event which we forget after a couple of days. Let it try to make a roadmap and try to foster some permanent partnership, networking among all of us so that we can work continuously for this environment. This is not going to be one-off event or just, half a day exercise which JSW and Times of India has to do. It's not that. I look at this entire exercise as something where people raise their voice, people give plausible solutions, and we make a roadmap after this. We make a report from which we can take off in various ways. Without community support, without incorporating youth in your agenda, I'm very sure this climate change mitigation is not going to happen. Thank you very much.
We now move into the panel discussion on the theme, Building Resilience Together, Communities for Climate Action. This panel discussion is the second outreach event in the series aimed to explore and promote community-based initiatives, indigenous knowledge, and innovative solutions for climate resilience and adaptation. And with this, I would like to invite Ajay Pandey, co-founder and partner at Think Through Consulting, leading ESG strategy, sustainability, and climate change. Prior to setting up TTC in the year 2015, Ajay has led CSR and development advisory at EY and KPMG. He started his career working at the grassroots level with Foundation for Ecological Security. In his journey as a sustainable development professional, Ajay has built expertise in the domains of natural resource management, climate change mitigation and adaptation, sustainable livelihoods, and social entrepreneurship. Ajay is our moderator for the day. I'd like to request Dr. Arup Kumar Misra once again to please kindly join us back on the stage. Also joining us for the panel discussion is Dr. Jaideep Barua, Director, Assam Science, Technology and Environment Center. Dr. Barua has been instrumental in setting up and heading the climate cell in ASTEC since 2010, coordinating various capacity building and awareness programs through Panchayat Raj Institutes, college environment and climate cells set up by ASTEC, setting up of eco clubs in Assam. He prepared the first draft of State Action Plan on climate change through several public consultations and also started a new program titled Chief Minister's Climate Resilient Village Fellowships, through which 100 fellows will work in as many villages to prepare strategy for climate resilience. So we'd like to request you to please kindly join us on the stage. Our next speaker is Dr. Partho Jyoti Das, Head, Water, Climate and Hazard Division, Aranyak. Dr. Partho Jyoti Das is an environmental scientist with special interests in the fields of water, climate change, and hydrometeorological hazards. He has done research for more than 20 years on interdisciplinary areas in the interface of natural science, environmental science, and social science. He has explored, researched, spoken, and written regularly on various aspects of climate-water disaster development nexus, with special reference to the Brahmaputra-Meghna river basin in India, as well as Northeast India in general. So we'd like to have you on the stage with us. I'd now like to request Mr. Rizwan Uz-Zaman, who is working as a senior technical consultant at Assam Climate Change Management Society, Government of Assam. ACCMS is a special purpose vehicle for the implementation of the Climate Change Action Plan of Assam. Previously, he was working as one of the directors with Mukammal Consulting and Research based in Guwahati, Assam. Mukammal is a developmental research organization dedicated to building climate resilience in different sectors. I'd like to request Mr. Rizwan Zaman to please kindly join us. And I'd now like to invite Dr. Dipankar Sohoria, Senior Director, Administrative Services and Regional Centers. Dr. Dipankar Sohoria heads TERI's Administrative Services Division and its regional centers. He also guides the Social Transformation and CSR Division, Environment Education and Awareness Division, and a few other research divisions in TERI. Earlier, he was heading TERI's Northeastern Regional Center. Dr. Sohoria is the director in the board of ONGC TERI Biotech Limited. And now it's over to you, Mr. Pandey.
Am I audible? Okay. So thank you so much for inviting me to moderate this session, and I thank JSW Foundation, Times of India for this Earth Care Award and taking this banner forward, because as Dr. Mishra, you were speaking, this cannot be a one-off event, and this is not a one-off event, because today we see a lot of programs, events, and I can say this for sure that there are there are things which come into fashion. Climate change is also something, and especially when you talk about ESG, these are very fashionable words for many, and I see a lot of young people getting into ESG as career choices, and today, I find really see them very passionate about this issue. So when you started in 2008, it was not into fashion, and you have carried it forward since then, and therefore I really congratulate and commend JSW Foundation and Times of India Group for this initiative. This initiative is in a way recognizing what is there to be celebrated, to be appreciated, to be acknowledged, and then it does not really end with an award. Getting an award is a recognition. Getting an award is actually bringing people, organizations, initiatives to the fore, let the world know that this is something which is happening. Dr. Mishra gave some examples from the village Panthi. Now these are the initiatives that everyone should know, because there is a lot of thought behind it. There's a lot of planning behind it. And who is doing all this planning? Who is thinking about them? Who is taking these initiatives? It is the communities which is at the forefront. And therefore, when we talk about the awards, when we talk about climate change, I am a firm believer that community should always remain at the forefront. Now, when we talk about community, community is not just one word. Community is an entire ocean. Right now we are sitting in Northeast. Couple of weeks back, we were in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad, and community is everywhere. But then what defines this community is the heterogeneity, the ingenious. Because when we talk about community, we talk about women, we talk about youth, we talk about indigenous people, we talk about people living in urban centers, we talk about people living in rural areas. Then we talk about people who are dependent on forest. We have people who are dependent on rivers ecosystem. So it is a big ocean of possibilities, and also, unfortunately, because of the extreme climate events that we are witnessing these days, of the vulnerabilities. And therefore, when we talk about climate change, there are three terms that are used quite widely and quite pronouncedly. we talk about mitigation. Mitigation is something that can be prevented. Mitigation is something where, because of community action, we are able to reverse or reduce the impact of climate change. And as again Dr. Mishra in his keynote covered, that climate change is not a new phenomena. Climate change has been happening since eternity, since the history of, let's say, humanity itself. But then, as we see, climate is a factor which controls all aspects of human behavior, right from our culture to our food to our clothes to our housing, everything. What we do is determined by climate. And as we all progressed, and when we started developing very, very fast, what we did was we started doing everything. We actually now have food habits which is taken from every nooks and parts of India and the world. So everywhere you will find something which does not belong to that particular climate. And similarly, the clothes. I mean, I'm wearing a jacket here. No one else is wearing this. But then again, I mean, this is not a place or the weather to be wearing a jacket. But we are still doing it for this. Yeah. And we are carrying it forward. So when we say community, let us also think that community is not someone else. Community is not out there. Community is hidden here. This entire room, this entire hall is the community. And when we talk about climate change or anything related to community, let us have that, as an opening remark in terms of what community is, who is the community here. We have, a panel which is very, very distinguished. I was going through the introductions, I was going through the profile of the panel, and I'm really very humbled sitting amongst all of you, and thank you for agreeing to be part of this panel, because I'm really excited, and I'm sure everyone is excited as well, to listen to different perspective. And it is, we will have perspectives from different areas. There are expertise in this particular panel which is really going to be insightful, engaging and exciting, and I don't want I can't wait for that to happen. So I will start the panel discussion today, and I will go first of all to Dr. Partha. Dr. Partha, you have been an environmental scientist, and you're managing an organization. You are working extensively with civil society and communities, and you are working with government, and you have had multiple roles. I had the opportunity to go through one of the articles that you co-authored, which was around sustainable management options for healthy rivers in South Asia, and specifics correlation with the Brahmaputra, and where you have stated that in the changing context of the projected climate future, there is a need to balance the multiple demands of water between environmental management, social equity, sustainable development, and the community within the ecosystem. Now, Dr. Mishra also pointed out on social justice and equity as the pillar of any community-based climate action. So, Dr. Partha, my question to you, and if you can shed some more lights on these. How do you think, how could communities be engaged in the sustainable management of rivers, or if we take this a little bit more generic, in sustainable water management? And then maybe highlighting some of the initiatives or practices that the communities in the Brahmaputra basin is undertaking to build resilience against the impact of climate change.
Thank you, Ajay. So thanks to the organizers and Times of India and the co-organizers for inviting me and giving me a position in this panel, panel. And then also thanks for choosing a theme where you are center staging community. So it's nice to be talking about communities. And when I speak of community, although you have very well defined who is the community, but in most cases the communities I'm referring to are people living in all these remote, disaster-prone and very, very vulnerable areas. So it's nice to be talking about them, sitting in this kind of place. And thanks for keeping in mind the interest of communities. See, me and my organization, when it comes to working with communities and talking about communities as far as climate change is concerned, we very consciously chose this path as a very specific methodology actually for exploring the climate scenarios in Northeast India, because there are many academic institutions who work with mainly academic interest. I mean, they do a lot of work, a lot of good work, but which may or may not be socially relevant actually. So we made it a point that we will take up only those issues for research, mainly field research and also action-based research. We will choose problems which are socially relevant. And for all these issues which are socially relevant, for whom? For the people who suffer from climate change impact. So, I mean, we all know that there is a saying that, for climate change and action and environmental actions, think globally, act locally. This is because climate change is caused because of global, factors and all that. Its consequences are also spread globally. But its consequences, its outcome, its impact is suffered at local scale. Who suffers? By people, by environment, by wildlife, by nature, located in certain specific locations, and that varies. That varies from season to season, from time to time, that varies from geography to geography, right? So for very obvious reasons, people living in Northeast India, people living in the Brahmaputra basin, the Barak basin, say come to the scale of Assam, are very, very highly vulnerable. I just wanted to add that, couple of recent assessments, national and international assessment, 2 assessments by DST in one of those regions was involved, and one very recent, one assessment by CEEU also, who is a co-partner of your organization. And in a very recent assessment, one very reputed Australian agency, it was in February only. So they have come out to report that Assam is at the forefront of suffering from climate change in India. And especially the impact will be more on the infrastructure. The entire Northeast India and Assam, and because of climate extremes. So the general transformative mode or gradual changes happening to nature and society because of climate change, that's different, but this is because of extreme events. And 2022, if you just look back what happened in Assam, is a glaring example of how common extremes have become. Extremes used to be rare. In statistics, in meteorological sciences, we always used to draw statistical graphs where extremes were always found to be outliers. They were never on the normal graph, but now they are approaching the normal graph. So that means the new normals. We are having new normals. So having said that, in the context of the paper on Brahmaputra that you have just cited, we talked about the entire Brahmaputra basin from China to Bangladesh actually. Because Brahmaputra basin has been studied by many people, and there are quite a few information about what is going to happen, including less rainfall, high rainfall, rising temperature, rising maximum and minimum temperature, rising extreme event, etc. So it's going to be a lot of run on the water sector, and water is very, very, very basic to communities, right? And therefore it was important to just examine how this is going to affect water in general, when I say water, it has many aspects. Distribution of rainfall over the year, and from place to place, availability of water on surface water bodies like wetlands and rivers, effect on groundwater, subsurface water, pollution of water, etc. Many aspects, and then other governance issues like having access to water, having rights to use water, having the rights and access to rivers. Those were important issues, right? Now there was a time, because we are ethnic community-dominated landscape, in Northeast India, and in that sense, there were a lot of egalitarian practices. People used to have lifestyles that were very, very in tune with nature, etc. Their food system, their healthcare system, the way they use the natural resources, everything was in sync with nature. So it was all sustainable. And there were many practices that community used to resort to who were found to be sustainable, including how to use a pond, household pond, the ways they adopted in fishing from the river, maybe with the wetland. So they always knew that this is the limit. There was no example of overexploitation of any river, of any wetland, if you look back at normal people's life, right? But then suddenly, starting with probably the British Raj and all that, a lot of social practices, a lot of social norms and community-based practices and wisdom started dying. And then, when we look back now, we are no longer driven by community-based customary institutions. We are not governed by community-based systems, right? We have a state-led governance system where probably communities have been alienated in many ways from the natural resources they were so attached to, right? And therefore, as Arupda nicely introduced the idea of commons and common properties, which started, which were there and which were further consolidated by the two Mahapurusas and their disciples and all that, this is no longer to be found. So in case of many of our traditional communities, ethnic communities, many elements are still there, but not in full vigor. And in many cases, the practices, that they used to resort to have broken down, have dwindled, and therefore now, this is the actual response to your question, there is a need to involve community. In the past, the state or the king didn't have any need to involve community. Communities were involved suo motu, automatically, in everything, because it was all community owned. And the kings respected the community ownership. In case of Assam, say Ahom king, I am just referring to kings as just as a metaphor, right? Whoever was, owning the state, etc. But now there is a need to involve community. That is how the word has come community-based. Earlier it was all community-led. So therefore, we need special policies, incentives, encouragement. Even communities in some cases need to be made aware that this is your right, this is your prerogative. Your forefathers used to do this, so you should also follow this. That was a good element of knowledge, etc. So therefore, there are many ways that have been done to some extent, but that can be done. So take the case of Assam. That, see, just one or two examples. There are many structural interventions on rivers, which are part of regular river management and all that, which affects local community very deeply, locally, in various multiple ways. You construct a sluice gate on a small stream, you construct a bridge, right, embankment, you erect erosion protection measures on a river, and you construct a dam for hydropower. Whatever you do, it affects people on both upstream and downstream. People may know about it, may not know about it. You may recognize it as an impact, you may not. That's a different thing. But people are getting impacted to various degrees and extents. This is one particular case where there is a real need to give scope and room and opportunity to communities to get into it. So our existing policies and practices probably have a room for improvement as far as giving that kind of opportunities to community to get involved, number one, in planning of any water-related project or any river, any for that matter on any natural resources. Planning, decision making, and execution. If we can achieve that, a lot of conflicts can be avoided. A lot of benefits can be accrued. Now we all know that, I don't have to go into details, that many such projects have not been successful because the way the projects were implemented alienated the community. Community never cooperated. Communities were never, there was no serious attempt to bring the community. But it was so-called meant for community, that communities neither participated nor got any benefit, and in many cases they never cared also. But as a consequence, in spite of investing a lot of money and all that, the community's conditions never improved. So what I want to say that, in this kind of a situation, in today, in the modern world, state-led administration, our policies need to be very sensitive, very flexible towards communities, and we should really recognize the need of involving community, so that on paper some transformation and some changes have happened, but in practice many of our decisions are still top down. We take decisions somewhere else, we impose on the community, we never discuss them, we never consult them, we never try to know their perception, their reaction, their response.
Yeah.
I think this is where probably we need to improve, so that communities get involved in what I'm doing. But on the other hand, if you give me another opportunity to talk about the other side of the coin, so this will be about, in spite of not getting any opportunity to be officially involved in water management, communities are still doing a lot of things on their own. That we call proactive adaptation, I can give you a lot of examples because but I think I will. I'll stop
absolutely. I mean, I think the point that you made are very relevant, because from community-led to maybe what we are now even having this discussion around, let us involve community or community participation. I mean, community participation itself has become a word which is an antithesis of community-led. Right? But yes,
Partho has highlighted certain points, and where I agree with him is that yes, in many cases community had never been discussed earlier. We don't need any example bigger than the Lower Subansiri hydroelectric project in Gerukamukh. 2000 megawatt project is languishing for last 2 decades because of the problem that NHPC and the other protagonists of the project's proponents, they went there with helicopter, did the recce, did everything in Gogabuk, Gerukamukh area. And when local people and students organizations wanted to know about the things, the DPR, PPR, etc., it was not shared the first time. Later on, when it came to very bad situation, from Gogamukh, the national highway was closed for movement of materials, then they came to the talking terms. I am talking this personally from my personal experience. As a teacher of engineering college, later on as director of STEC, in these both occasions I had been there a number of times with our friends, and it was basically a small ego problem. Most of the organizations, social organizations said, Amak agoto kiya kowa nasile. You are making this project and taking the power from here to rest of the country. Why we were not informed? Same story applies to the Mishmi Hills area. If you go above Teju, Anini area in Arunachal Pradesh, there was a tiger reserve project. Local people were never told about that. So in this area, I fully agree with Partho. Yes, you talk about community, you give their, you vouch on them, but when actually the project is planned, people are not taken into consideration. Now the other side, flip side of the story is that, does all our communities have well accepted leadership? Very important question. Who is the leader of this community? One will say, I am the leader. Other will say, Minal is sitting, my classmate Minal Chaudhary is there. One small picohydral project in Honapur could not be completed because one village says, we do not know about this project. We want power from this project also. When Assam government said at some point of time to us, AIDA, that you go for picohydral, microhydral projects, don't go for bigger projects. There are so many streams, perennial streams in the state, hill areas. You utilize them. At least 10 families in the village, 20 families in the village, if they get 1, 2 bulbs and 1 fan lit from the local, turbine generated power, hydel power, then also it's okay. But we could not finish that project. People came from all places to help the project. NBRIT, they were after this project, but it couldn't be completed. So, one very important thing you should all keep in mind is that you keep on saying community, community, community. First off, define the community. Who is the community? Is there a leader who can be said? Now, if you go to Morigaon area, the Tiwa Raja, whatever the king says, is even now abided by the people. It is even now. Do we have that authority everywhere? Do we have iconic figures in the communities who can lead the society? So, people are saying now, a lot of people, friends tell me, no, we should go for Panchayati Raj. It is well defined in the constitution. Panchayati Raj system should be there. Gram Panchayat, Anchalik Panchayat, Jila Parishad, etc. Everything is well defined in this constitution. Why not in modern times, Panchayats takes the role of the community? Panchayats also are all driven by politics, political power. What is this Panchayat? This is the ruling party Panchayat. What is this opposition party Panchayat? So sometimes you want to do things, but you cannot have it. I'm talking about both the extremes. Extremes where on one side, you do the entire project and almost finishing, and then you say, we didn't tell the local people about what is going to be the effect. Are they going to be dislocated from this area because of this project? So we didn't tell them, now we should tell them. It's very late to say, now we'll tell them. Right? And then on the other side, flip side of the story, he used the term, Partha used the term, understanding other side of the coin. Yes, we all say we should understand other side of the coin, but how long, how far we have made efforts to understand the coin. He missed this point. I am telling his project. Aranyak's project, I am trying to tell you, in Karbi Anglong, in Karo and Jayantia Hills, we all say jhum cultivation is bad, slash and burn. Now it has been found that where there is no land, absolutely no land, only hilly terrain, in those areas, it is the only solution. And who says jhum cultivation is bad? Yes, it is bad. If you go for a 2-3 year cycle. But Partha, your studies have found in Aranyak, I talked to Bibhav also recently, that if you give a 10-year cycle, fallow cycle, after 10 years you come into the same plot of land, it's going to have very good soil nutrients and very good rejuvenation, and you can go for slash and burn cultivation. There is no alternative. In Mussoorie, Dehradun, Uttarakhand areas, in Himachal Pradesh areas, in Munnar, Kerala areas, in Assam hill areas, you cannot give the people a land, flat piece of land. You have to allow them scientifically to go for slash and burn or jhum cultivation. So these are the things which I call looking at other side of the coin.
Yeah, thank you. That was such a, I would say, relevant opening to this discussion. And we are on this topic, and we were talking about communities and definition of communities, and talking about both the side of coin. Thank you, sir. Dr. Rizwan, you are working with the Assam Climate Change Management Society, and just slightly taking this particular aspect a little forward. How, if I ask you, because what we have focused on right now is the importance of the community and making them part of the decision-making group, making them own the initiative, and that is only going to be community-led action, right? Now, how government organizations, institutions like ACCMS would ensure such inclusion and making possible active participation of various social groups, I define as community. So what could be the strategies to engage, because there are multiple challenges from a government perspective as well, in terms of what Dr. Mishra said. who is the community? Who is the leader? Are we talking about panchayat? Are we talking about some common interest group? Are we talking about a joint forest management group or a water management group? Who are we really speaking to? So how do you tackle this problem? What are the strategies that an agency like yours would make to ensure such participation happens?
Thank you, Ajay, and good afternoon, good morning, still morning. Good morning to everyone, and thanks Arubda and Ajay and Parthoda for setting the context and making it easy for me to speak on the next questions which Dr. Ajay is going to ask. See, I was in Delhi for quite a long time, around 21 years, 22 years. I did my studies, master's, PhD, and all from there. I had started working there. Then I came back to Assam in 2014. Since then, I'm working with the Assam government with various departments. First state action plan on climate change was released on 2015. And recently we have revised the second state action plan on climate change version 2, 2021 to 2030, which we have submitted to Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. The question which you asked, how we are trying to engage the community or so-called communities, I guess the first state action plan on climate change, which your host has said, Dr. Jaideep Barua was one of the key means instrumental in drafting the state action plan that time. The addition which we did in this present state action plan which we have submitted is we have taken inputs from organizations like Aranya, PCB had played an important role, STEC had played an important role. We took comments, inputs from WWF, UNICEF, SDEMA, CESTA, Spread Northeast, and many others which are working on this field, who works with the community and who knows the nuances of the community. That's one best thing happened in the state action plan on climate change which has been revised. Secondly, we did some sectoral vulnerability assessment in this revised state action plan on climate change, which again addresses the issues of community which was missing in the first state action plan on climate change. Third point which we have added, strengthened in the state action plan, that we have devised a mechanism for supporting this community-led activities, community-led engagement, how it can happen, and how to support them with financial help or and there is a strong presence of JFMCs, BMCs, then there is a ASRLM working here. They have a good financial formula here in Assam, most of the part. There is always scope for improving and all. So that has been considered in the state action plan on climate change. Also, one of the activities, since we are authority, we are not supposed to implement any schemes and all. So what we have done as of now, in last 1 year, we have covered almost 12 districts out of 30 districts of Assam, where we have done a capacity building workshop with the district level, talking on these issues, where Aranyak was also part of 3-4 workshops in 3-4 districts, and we do at district level, DC level, with the line departments, telling them how to engage with community and how to understand and what are the areas you should work on. One of the things which Arubda also mentioned and Parthoda also mentioned about how to engage, I call in my terms as mainstreaming the discussions which you had. That if you, I strongly feel that if you mainstream climate actions into planning and budgeting, you are solving a lot of fringe issues, which is community issues also. We all need to support the activities which you have mentioned. I have written Jhum cultivation while he was speaking. There is jhum cultivation, there is dong practices, which is like canal-based irrigation system. Then there are youth-led activities. Like one, my brother is sitting here, Dr. Jayaditya Purkasta, who's working on turtles. That is also is part of this community-led actions. So this is how we are trying with the Climate Change Management Society. And also, if you see across India and all the states and UTs, you will find, I guess, JSW team who are coordinating with other states for this kind of workshops. They have climate change cell. They don't have society. So we have a society here which again leads to community. And how it leads to community is that there are strong presence of experts like Dr. Partha Das or Samir Bordoloy or Pushpadhar Das, who are working on NTFP based or climate related, means they are doing livelihood diversification, Nandita Hazarika for disaster, then Shantanu Mitra for water resource. So we have representations from community also in this society. So who tells us on a regular basis that these are the areas where you have to work. So we have representation from community, we have representations from academicians, we have representation from philanthropy. So that's how the society works basically.
Thank you for bringing it and about the state action plan. And I think what you just narrated in the second state action plan, I can see the focus, going beyond some of the usual aspects and yeah. So thank you, Dr. Rizwan. Dr. Mishra, I have a question for you. I'll come to you, but before that, and my question to you is, something that you highlighted about participation of youth. So I'm going to come to that, but before that, I just quickly wanted to go to Dr. Dipankar. And, Dr. Dipankar, if you have been, engaged. Yeah. So, Dr. Dipankar, you have been engaged with the, TERI's Northeastern Regional Centers initiatives. And there are a lot of projects that you have worked on in Assam, outside of Assam as well. Specifically working with the community, and there is a lot of novel initiatives that each of these projects has. Just wanted to understand if you can share a little bit more about these initiatives, and specifically focusing on, because one of the aspect that that we have been speaking about community, one of the important aspect is institutions. And when we talk about institutions, we talk about governance, right? So what are the essential governance principles that these institutions should follow to ensure efficient and effective natural resource management? I mean, this has been going on for a long time, but now within the urgent requirement of climate change action and mitigation and resilience initiatives, what these governance mechanisms should be.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ajay. And thank you to the Times of India Group and GSW. Just to start off, I would just like to brief about TERI also. TERI is completing 50 years of its existence, starting from 23rd of June this year. And all the vision goes to J.R.D. Tata, who in 1974 thought that energy would be an issue and a crisis, and therefore this TERI was started by him, and now we are completing the 50 years. At the same time, TERI Northeast was established in 94, so we are again going to achieve, completing 30 years. So this had been, the climate change work done by TERI started in late 80s under the leadership of Dr. Pachauri, and we have been working across India in different kind of, from policy to everything that relates to climate change. And definitely Northeast has been one of the, hotspot, you may say, or whatever, a very fragile ecosystem, ecology. And we have been, doing a lot of projects that, that goes around ultimately to the, to the climate action, achieving our SDG goals. And just to add on what our panelists have said and what Mr. Rizwan has said, that the first action plan on climate change was actually drafted by TERI, and with a lot of assistance from ESTEC by Dr. Joydeep Barua during, I think in late 2007-8 or something. During that time, TERI was involved in drafting the first climate change action plan. And while I would specifically like to go to two projects that we have implemented in the Northeast. Not implemented, one was more of developing a comprehensive plan for a Gaon Panchayat in Dhokwa Khana subdivision that is in Lakhimpur district in Matmora, Gaon Panchayat. Now I agree what Partho has said that that we are not involving the communities to the extent we should do. But in our case, we have made this plan involving the communities because this is an area that has been flooded years after year. And the whole agriculture scenario of this place changed with deposit of sand. And you can just imagine the very fertile land where paddy used to be the, 80% of the population depended on paddy, and completely this was just, covered by sand, and you can just think of the livelihood. So while we planned, we involved the communities from the very starting point, the marginal and the vulnerable ones, and every bit of plan that was prepared, starting with the PRA exercise and all this involving communities, what kind of problems they face and what kind of other things that need to be developed there, alternative, livelihood options, and how they could change their, socio-economic status along with the survey done. So every institutional that was there in those villages in that panchayat were involved, and we came up with a very good plan. And that basically, because water was so much there, but suddenly there was no water. So water was one of the major focus for water conservation, developing a lot of water bodies, and therefore, converting their agriculture to more of, fishing, some other activities that would, be resilient to the, effect of sudden change, the extreme climate events that take place in the Northeast now, which one of our panelists have already said. So this kind of things we have done. And one more example was the first NAMA project, National Appropriate, Mitigation plan that we did for the MOEF and under the GIZ, sponsorship. And that was more of, involving 6 districts, especially for sustaining and, the fuel wood use. How improved chulas and government's scheme were, converged to, lessen the use of fuel wood, and also, having technologies so that we have less fuel wood, because about 70% in Assam are dependent on fuel wood for cooking. So 70% we really can make a huge change to the ecology if you can reduce this, even by providing improved chulas and the government scheme of providing LPGs and other technologies that is whatever possible. And we did a lot of energy plantations there in those villages involving the communities. We had a lot of interaction. So across these 6 districts with the Forest Department of Assam. So if you take these 2 districts, about 2 projects, we really involved the communities, and the feedback and the outcome was tremendous. So ultimately, if everything that we are, things are changing because of climate change, but community initiative can make a major, change in making them more resilient. Along with that, one example that I want to put forward from, our Uttarakhand center, because I also look after the regional centers. So we have a center in Mukteshwar, and there we are dealing with the farmers, providing them, opportunities to sell their, very high value spices, that are grown there, oregano and all this. And one thing that I want to highlight, making community involved through our radio, station, Kumayu Vani, that we have a FM station there covering about 3 districts there, and there the disaster management would use our, Kumayu Vani to warned the farmers that this kind of, extreme events may happen and you have to take the precautionary. So this kind of initiative in terms of climate action and involving the communities is the way out. They can really make the change in the ground. We are not there. Government schemes generally happen, without involving communities. That is known to all. But we, as an institute, should involve wherever possible, to involve the communities and have policies in place so that, we have the communities, their contribution, their knowledge, the indigenous knowledge, and how to, amplify the indigenous knowledge in, putting in our, innovative technologies that we have developed and amplify, because, ultimately the wisdom of the communities is so useful. One more study that we are again doing regarding indigenous, the knowledge and the medicines. So there you will really, come to know that how useful this knowledge is. So across Northeast, lots of, things that are happening. Many are not known, but without involving the communities, I don't think that much success, because ultimately they are the ones that are getting benefited from all these projects. So I think I covered you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dipankar, and the examples that he shared, and I'm looking towards everyone present here that please do this initiative is for everyone to actually showcase and make these examples more visible.
Yeah, I just want to add one more, that we are also taking the UNDP SGP project now. We are also undertaking, Terry is doing this in the three landscapes, and one involves Meghalaya and Assam, couple of districts in Meghalaya and about 4 districts in Assam. So that is one more, where the community contribution is very much important in the UNDP SGP project. So next time whenever there is a call, I request that, please apply for this kind of, funding, where you will also require some partners to get, involved, because this will help us to actually, achieve the goals of UNDP SGP that is being, sponsored under the, GIF funding. So thank you.
That's a very useful information, Dipankar, you shared. So moving on, Dr. Joydeep, you have been patiently hearing every panelist, and I'm also mindful of the time. So we are around 15 minutes left. So I will try to squeeze in one more round before we cover the first round. So Dr. Joydeep, of course you have experience and on all the aspects that we have been discussing, but what I wanted you to focus on today for this panel is the importance of science and technology. When we talk about resilience and building resilience, of course institution is there, finance is there, governance is there, but technology and research and development, these are also very, very important element. So how could science and technology be integrated into community action efforts to amplify the impacts? So that is my question for you.
Yeah, thank you, JSW and Times of India, for organizing this event. You know that the organization I am representing, it is Assam Science, Technology and Environment Council. It is the principal organ of the Science, Technology and Climate Change Department to spearhead all the science and technology programs in Assam. And we have, initially we had 4 divisions: energy, remote sensing, science, technology and environment. And energy division has become Assam Energy Development Agency. Mr. Mindal Krishna Sudri is there, just retired as the director of that organization. The remote sensing agency has been now separated as another organization, Assam State Space Application Center. Now presently we have 2 organizations, environment and science and technology. And this environment division actually is now taking up a lot of activities on environmental conservation, education, etc. But recently in 2021, that climate change subject has been transferred from Forest Department to Science and Technology, and with a purpose that, as you rightly asked, that what science and technology, what role science and technology can play in climate change mitigation and adaptation. You see, already said that we started some kind of activities in 2008-9 when National Action Plan on Climate Change was declared. At that time, we set up a climate cell in STEC, and we started to develop some kind of action plan for the state of Assam, where Dr. Partha Das was also actively involved. And regarding community, actually, we had a state-wide consultation at the grassroots level in different universities and research laboratories. We invited community participants from farming groups, tea community, different tribal communities, and we had around 4 or 5 rounds of this type of activities throughout the state. Based on their input, we have developed some actions, and based on that, when TERI came into place, then DFID came into place to help the government of Assam in developing the action plan. Ultimately, 2015, the first action plan was approved by the government of India. So from the very beginning, we are having that approach from our state council, and now we are now discussing about the definition of the community. I don't know how long it will. It is some kind of debate will continue regarding that, but we had to do something. When we started this climate action, then our main task is to go to the community, rural people, rural community, and how to get them aware about the new, all this kind of developments of climate change action, mitigation, adaptation, because they have been doing some sustainable efforts for hundreds of years, thousands of years, but they have to rediscover themselves how they are contributing for the climate change action and what new things have to be done, what are the recent developments. Then we started working at the grassroots level, having regular awareness programs and motivational programs at the sensitization program at rural area, where we involve organization like Aranyak. There is another organization in Nagaon, Society for Socioeconomic Awareness and Environment Protection, and some other organizations. They, throughout the state, we went to the Panchayat, but our main media was Panchayati Raj institutions. We had to involve them to bring community to the stage, and we had regular discussions. Now, after this is still continuing. Then we have some tie-up with state Panchayat, the Institute of Panchayat and Rural Development. With them also, we are now regularly interacting with the Panchayati Raj institutions. But now, recently, after the subject has been transferred to Science and Technology, we have started one new initiative, Chief Minister's Climate Resilience Fellowship Program. That means we are going to engage around 100 fellows, postgraduate fellows, who will be going to different rural areas. We have identified 100 villages. Immediately we have started 50 villages where we have a team involving Dr. Rizwan Partha, another professor from Cotton University. We have a core team. With that, we have already identified 50 fellows, 50 villages. And we are going to do some kind of baseline survey about the indigenous practices and traditional practices those villagers are adopting for long, and what new things have to be done. Based on that, we want to evolve some kind of climate change mitigation and resilience model for those villages. If it is successful, it can be replicated in other places of the state also. This is some of the initiative regarding innovation and technology applications. The audience will be very happy to know that this year in our state budget, one very important scheme has been declared. That is State Green Innovation Fund. It is going to be started with a 25 crore corpus, and through that we are going to support the grassroots innovators, the innovators in the academia who wants to do develop some innovate some kind of green technology or application of technologies, and sensitization of community about the innovative practices, application of green technology like that. So the process is going on. Very soon this Green Innovation Fund will be operative, and I think this is going to play a very important role in terms of technology for mitigating climate change and environmental conservation. These are some of the initiatives now we are taking. Now we are in the verge of developing some climate resilience mission. There also now we are going to discuss with different parts of the state what are the need of the communities, different communities. This is another aspect, and our Honorable Minister of Science and Technology has recently declared on 25th of this May that now we are going to engage some volunteers, because you know that in Assam a new unique experience is there. Our former director is here. We have some science centers at the grassroots level. Aryabhatta Science Centers in all 219 development blocks. we are going to engage those centers in identifying this type of traditional practices, knowledge, how they are going, how these are helping in sustainable development practices, climate change mitigation, environmental conservation, and these documentations are going to be very helpful for us in evolving some climate change, climate resilience methodology, and how we can reach out to the community. So these are some of the initiatives we are taking now.
Yeah, I mean these are really very interesting, and looking forward to the success of these pilots that you have undertaken. Dr. Mishra, you brought in a very important aspect of youth participation. What we normally see across youth is the aspiration is moving towards, everyone wants to move to cities, everyone is moving to aspiring to get into IT, into something which is, you know, does not really require physical work. Now there are, at the same time, we see a lot of examples of young people leading these climate actions. I mean, climate action, village level action, community related actions. Now I wanted to understand from you a little bit more in terms of how we can engage the youth more effectively, how we can create that system that enable them to, you know, because they are worried about their career, they are worried about their future, they are worried about a lot of different aspects, but how we can make more meaningful utilization, as you mentioned, how we should make this demographic dividend does not turn into a demographic disaster.
Yeah, you are using my terms, demographic dividend to demographic disaster. See, I spoke very clearly about that youth of today are different from our times. This is for sure. One of my students, he was working for satellite communication in Norway for last about 10 years. And very dear student of mine. And he suddenly came back during COVID. His boss said, you work from Guwahati, no problem. Still he's working for that particular agency in Norway, Oslo. But at the same time, after the COVID, I think first time after passing engineering from my college, he first time realized that a lot of work need to be done here in the field, grassroots. So one of his friends took him to Mirja. They went to Mirja, which is outskirts of Guwahati city, something like about, how much? About 8 kilometers from Guwahati airport. So there he found that local weavers in their handlooms are suffering a lot. No market linkages, no raw materials, and so on and so forth. So one day suddenly he called me up, sir, I have to talk to you. Is it worth investing some money with some village women for handloom development? I said, what happened to you? From satellite communication to handloom development? No, sir, there is a need here. Today, this farm, after 3 years of establishment, is selling best of the garments, sador, mekhela, jackets, shawls, etc., to most of the European countries. And one small part which is left out in the country is given to Nallis in Lajpat Nagar, Delhi, and one farm in Chennai. Not a single piece is sold here. He says, I get more satisfaction in seeing these 30 women in the village getting so much of income and improving their lifestyle than my big work with big companies across the world. He has traveled everywhere. He has seen the whole world. He is still now working in a very important strategic project with Government of India, Ministry of Defense. He developed the first app to trace the people who were coming from outside in trains, and before getting the station, he used to pull the chain and ran through the field to avoid that testing in the station. Remember 2020, when we were testing positive, negative, all those laborers and security guards working in the rest of India. The first app he developed for this state. In record, DGP had given him felicitation in the public meeting. This is one example. There are many such boys whom I regularly meet who says, sir, we want to come back and work for something more meaningful. So Ajay, not that everybody is going for IT or some multinational company. There are many youth in this country who are also coming back. We are not probably hearing their voice, their clarion call. They want to participate in the process. So what I want to say, meaningful youth participation is about sharing power in youth-adult partnerships in decision-making process. I told from there also that in decision-making, how many people sit with us who are really young and who has a lot of energy and who has a lot of goodwill to do something for the nation. Meaningful youth participation is enabled by systemic empowerment, which involves addressing adult-centric structures, structural inequality, and systemic discrimination, sometimes unpalatable. For people like us, it is sometimes unpalatable. 25-year-old boy saying something, which he is saying that you people have done this, you people have done that, now you are putting the buck to us. Sometimes it's unpalatable, but we have to hear to their voice. Not only information, whatever Joydeep has spoken, most of these seeds were sown much long back. How empower youth? Small science clubs, science centers. You remember we had given every district higher secondary school one like biodiversity garden, school garden. I have seen myself a garden in Tihu which was in shatters. After a couple of years I saw it. It's fully now in full bloom. You really feel good, You feel good that at least in small pockets by school science centers, school science clubs, climate change cell in colleges, we had worked and now the fruits are coming out. So youth will come to the mainstream, will add to our power, our entire work process, provided we take them not just as silent workers, but decision makers and equal partners in the process. So, Ajay, there are many more things like that, but I think that this is because this 21st century youth, they have some sort of, self-esteem, more self-esteem and ego. When I didn't mind my teachers in school or college giving us some, bashing and some sort of, criticize about our activities, I didn't mind. My son did mind. See the generation, in one generation it changed. He used to feel very bad, I'll not go to school. This ma'am has told me, class 2, class 3 kid in DPS Delhi, he used to say, Papa, I'll not go to school. Why? She told me like this in front of everybody. We were never, we in our class, even if we had some beating also, caning, we never felt anything. It was part of our culture. So, today things are changing. That youth, that young crowd, you have to bring to the table, respect them, give them power, give them information, give them a strategic path, and then you say that you work for us now. But if you ask me, there are a number of stories. I told only about one student who is now working parallelly. Whole night he will work for Norway from his flat in Panjabari, and daytime he goes to help those weavers in the villages. One center in Mirja, now we'll go to Gwalpara, we'll Nagaon, in various places of the state. I'm sure very soon this Indian Weavers Association based organization will go places to promote eco-friendly, environment-friendly use of dyes, use of textile and weaving process. Power loom is not the solution every time. I always say, pay something more. Don't buy 5 pairs of Chador Mekhala. Buy 2 pairs, pay more, but make it eco-friendly. Where we are sitting right now, here, just across, in the same hotel, Vivanta, last boundary opposite to us, there is a EV, electric vehicle charging station. I was invited a couple of months back to inaugurate that. So I did the fita cutting and doing all these things. I asked these people, how will you run this particular show? Then they said, we have dedicated line, power supply for this. I said, oh, electric vehicles running with 8 to 9 rupees electrical power per unit coming from fossil fuel based industries. How green we are. How green we are. You pay 8-9 bucks for charging the car to electrical power. This is not green. Green is that which I saw in 2019 October at Technical University of Berlin. Schneider had put up 6 solar panels, and below they have got the charging points. Every bit of power coming for charging the vehicles is from the solar power. So today's youth, they know about this. I have a lot of discussions with them. Wherever I am, I always devote a lot of time for interaction with school and college students. And as I am sure, days are not very far off when we, the gray-haired people, will not be sitting in the decision-making tables. Young people will be sitting in the decision-making tables.
Thank you so much, and that was that was very uplifting. I am having a difficult job to moderate this session because there is each one of us, barring me, of course, coming up with so much of experience. I mean, my experience, I wanted to share a lot of examples, but given this position, I am not able to do that, and the screen in front of me is showing time's up. So I'm looking towards the organizers, and maybe because there is such a patient and appreciative audience here, with the permission of everyone, if I can take at least 2 questions from the audience. Yeah.
It's a futile exercise.
Yeah.
Before talking,
Yes.
you don't express how you feel about it.
Yes. So can we have, yes sir. Can we have a microphone?
Yeah.
God bless us, isn't it?
Oh, go ahead.
What is the game? Forget our meeting today.
Thank you. My name is Milind Datta. I also left US and here started an organization called Enajori and have been working with 7 different areas because I don't think that you can work in one area without the other. You cannot talk about environment without taking care of the street animal or the LGBTQ community or STEM education, no, different things. So anyway, first of all, I wanted to, when I came back from US, I felt very helpless. We talk about community, we talk about youth leadership, but here I'm looking for Shishendu Das, who is doing excellent work for Midway Journey, youth, segregating, separating plastic. I don't see him here. I don't see Ashadip, who is working about recycled cloth business. I don't see her here. I don't see Itissa, who also left Delhi and working over here, working on Northeast Waste Collective. These are the youth who are cleaning Brahmaputra Ghat, Uzan Bazaar Ghat, daily. I don't see them over here. So I would love to see those youth who are really doing the work. The other thing I feel very helpless is when I see all these trees getting cut, in Zoo Road and everywhere else, right? Yeah, other places in Bangalore and other places, people ask the community what they want. Before you cut a tree, ask the community what they want. Here they cut the tree, after that we come to know, or today is the tree is going to cut, right? And I also, first of all, I have to really thank though, but I was just thinking about all the things which is making me like, we are talking about, at least I'm very happy that there's no plastic bottles here, right? Because many times they organize all this climate related stuff and they give bottled water. So I'm very happy that everything over here is plastic free. So I would really request the people in power to support the local social entrepreneurs who are trying to use those plastic recycle or other things like that. And we wanted to feel powerful. I wish, other places they have block leaders, right? Every block, I can only talk about Guwahati. For example, my coconut tree fell down. And I don't know how to dispose over that. In other countries they have choppers, they chop it and we use the wood chips. But here I see all these trees lying down in the road, there's...
So if I can, good to note your observations. We have a tea break afterwards.
Sure.
And we can engage on that. If there is any specific question for the panel members,
sure,
we will take it and then we can have offline discussion.
Okay. So my question, my observation was that when I used to come back from Surat in the train, as soon as the train is to come cross Siliguri, I used to feel so happy years ago when 89 and all that. that Assamese village has a tree and then a pond and bamboo trees. But now when I go through, I see the villages, a dry pond and full of plastic.
So
It dried up.
Yeah.
So I would request that what is there for waste management in villages? I see them burning the plastic. Is there any incinerator for them to control the plastic? What is done for pollution control or for the environment in villages? That is my question.
okay, so we will take maybe one more question from here, and there is one question. So we'll take two more questions, and then can we have a microphone there? Yeah.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but it's because most of the talk was done on human perspective. I just want to add one perspective to that, is animal perspective of climate change. So what we have observed is we are happy to say that there is a turtle known as black softshell turtle which was extinct in the wild, and then through reproductive, captive breeding program we generated species, and now it's critically endangered though. But as we are doing the practice and we are releasing lot of babies hatchling to the wild, now that one thing came to my mind and we have started working on that, and we found results which are not very happy results. And that is that the turtles, they have this, the sex is not determined always through, genes. They are also temperature related, sex determination in them. So now what is happening is, because the temperature, the constant temperature is on rise, that the average temperature, so that we are finding that we are having all female turtles there. That is a concern, yeah.
So any specific question you have?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just wanted to share that observation that this is in the animal world also, the climate change is creating a great deal of problem. Not only in human. Yeah.
I have a suggestion. I have a suggestion for the organizers also, because these are very, very important observations. The point that you are raising, the point that have been raised here. Maybe if you can write these observations down
I'll
and
do that.
hand it over to the organizers. Then what we will do is, at least we will try and see if there can be a larger body that can have a look at it, because we will be moving on to the awards, and these observations and these aspects are going to be really, really important. Also, in case you are working on any specific issue or anything related to community action, where animal welfare is also taken into account,
Exactly.
please do feel encouraged to apply for these awards and put your nomination, so that you can share more insights about the work that you are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the organizers. I want to ask you one question. You see, the biggest polluter is the government. Whether it is the railways, whether it is the army, whether it is the national highway, it's the biggest polluter. And incidentally, that no individual has the right to fight a legal battle with this polluter, because it comes under Green Tribunal. Now, all this environmental violation of the environmental rule is a minor criminal act. And for that, the government official has to be the agency to determine whether an FIR can be filed. An individual cannot file an FIR on environmental pollution by a system. It has to be determined by a government agency authorized by the government to be able to file an FIR. Under such circumstances, how do you expect the future generation, which we have not mentioned anywhere this time? We are talking about youth, but we are not talking about the future generation, for access to the common property resources. We have talked about common property resources, damage to done with it, but what are the actions or law that are being taken by the government or all the organizations working on it to prevent that? We are cutting down, we are giving LPG for house cooking. What has prevented this from converting all the wasted bamboo from converting into bamboo charcoal? Now, there are so many acts. Let's say, for example, your state jurisdiction is on land and water, whereas the forest comes under central jurisdiction. Now, how can you have a forest without the land and water? Now, isn't this a conflict in law itself? So, first and foremost things that we need to have a complete set of new environmental laws to be able to combat or mitigate the climate change damages. Number one. Number two is that the accessibility of the future generation, their right for fundamental rights. Environment is a fundamental right defined in the Indian Constitution. Now we don't have the right to file a case by the new generation for their fundamental rights. Now this is a gross conflict of law.
So if I, sorry to interrupt, but if I take your question, what are the avenues or how, because you mentioned that government, when government is polluting, what are the laws or what are the, how one can take action against these pollutants, and what is the government doing to tackle such type of pollution? If I can take that question and maybe ask
not only
the panel
government,
members.
what is all these NGOs and all these social organizations or the companies who are doing that?
Is doing
Yes.
on that.
See,
Okay.
basically you got to address one thing. The world is now, the society is going on a high energy system. And energy, you cannot define the second law of thermodynamics. It will be creating more and more chaos all the time.
Absolutely.
You cannot deny that. You cannot just change it. So why have you not reversed this direction? We need to go back to the days of Pareto and Walter Matthäus. Those are the things where you got to minimize our consumption. Unless you reduce the energy consumption by the society, we are not going to do anything positive. Unless you give the fundamental rights to the next generation or future generations, you are not going to do. You'll be having lots of seminars, lots of documents, lots of cells.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think just
thank
in
you
the
very
interest
much.
of time, sir. Thank you for your observation and also for the question. But I think most of the question that you have asked, you have also kind of shared some of the observations related to the query redressal. And this is a question. I don't think whether we will be able to cover the answers. But I am going to give.
That young person from America who has come back to his homeland, like many others, we have, based upon the 1986 Environmental Protection Act, overarching Act of India, in 1998, first the rules were given, and 2016 we have got 6 waste management regulations. Out of that, this municipal solid waste, plastic waste, construction demolition waste, biomedical waste, hazardous waste, all are coming. Okay? So in the rural areas, yes, I do agree. In urban areas, because of some urban local bodies are there, whether they are efficient or inefficient doesn't matter. At least they have a system of collecting the garbage, trash, etc. We pay money for every household in Guwahati. They pay money to some NGO who take that garbage from your doorstep, etc., and then go to a central collection center. So at least some system has been made. In rural areas, plastics are quite rampantly used. It comes out from various sources. I think Leher chips and all this Lays and Bingo, I see more in the village areas than in the town areas, city areas. Whenever you travel outside, you see big, all the small shops having huge collection of chips and all these things, and they're all going to the agricultural field and local drains, etc. So we are now thinking about also incorporating those areas which are not coming under any urban local bodies, ULBs. There are 105 ULBs in Assam. We are not coming exactly under that, but in rural areas also, there are some active volunteer groups, Prakriti action groups, which we are forming very soon. So they are going to keep vigilant on that. They'll be given some responsibilities, some incentive also for collecting. One tragic story is that we talk about recycling of plastic. We have got 19 industries in Assam for recycling of plastic. When they talk to us, they say, sir, we don't get adequate inputs to run our machine, raw materials. So they have to send all those things, packaging to either Barauni or Jharkhand or Bihar, some other place where they have got plants. So sometimes it so happens, you have a juicer at home, only with one apple you cannot make the juice. It will keep on dancing. You have to press them with some more fruits. Similarly, all the machines which are working here, they need some more raw materials, which is not collected by us in one place to give it to the recycler. So there are different stories. I was a bitter critic of Pollution Control Board at one point of time. When I was in engineering college, in all meetings I used to, give fiery lectures about Pollution Control Board. But now in the hem of affairs for last more than 1.5 years, I find that things are doable, things are possible. You need mass support, mass awareness and all these things to come on. Your question is basically that. Plastics by itself is not harmful. Plastics thrown as a garbage and choking the drains and cattle eating and dying is a problem. In 1930s when plastics came up, it was a sort of game changer in the world. You saved so many forests, you saved so much of mining activities which are much more polluting. Give me 1 hour time, I'll convert you, each one of you, into plastic lover. Today I don't have time. Many scientific things are just going on. I go to a Guwahati school, all children come in the annual day, chief guest, say no to plastic, say no to plastic. I said, what is say yes to plastic? What is say yes to plastic? Paper? I said, do you know, for printing 160-page London Times Sunday edition, you have to burn 72 bigha. We know bigha, na? 24 acres, 72 bigha of land in England. From 72 bigha of land, the forest comes, trees come, then comes one edition of London Times on Sunday. If there are 2 or 3 pages less, people are so conscious there. With a cup of coffee in the morning on a Sunday, they will telephone the London Times. Why there is no hatch match detached today? What is hatch match detach? Hatch is Mr. and Mrs. Parthodas have given birth to a child. Match is matrimony, wanted, and detach. After 12 years of blissful marriage, we decide to separate out, me and my wife. So even if there is no hatch match detached in a Sunday edition, people are upset. And then you cut 72 bighas of forest. Children are listening to like this. Sir, we never thought like that. You think like that. Nothing is free in this world. Plastic, once it is done, the harm is done. Petroleum reservoir has given the oil to us. From that oil, after taking LPG, petrol, diesel, kerosene, a small part, naphtha part is taken out to make plastics, polyethylene, polypropylene. Is there a second time we are doing damage to the earth? No, sir. Already ONGC Oil India has taken the petroleum hydrocarbons. From that, out of many products, some products are plastics. Right? But for forest, for minerals, you have to go for digging the earth number of times, cutting the forest, regenerate forest, again cut the forest. So which is your friend? Plastic never said that you throw me in the drain. You have to sensibly work. So, what do I tell to you? Government is polluter, so I am also biggest polluter. So he's also polluter, we all are polluters. Yes, there has to be a paradigm shift in the legal system in the country. FIR দিব নোৱাৰে সঁচা কথা, PIL to দিব পাৰে। পাৰে নাই? For one person's PIL, entire Northeast coal fields was lockdown কৰি দিয়া হৈছে। কিয়?
It will not be accepted in the High Court because it's against the government. I'll go to Supreme Court. This is my personal experience. I fought for 12 years on.
I'm also taking personal experience. Only yes. 3 days back, I
have gone to the Supreme Court.
I met Dilip Das. I met that gentleman who has given the PIL. Jharkhand, Margarita Lidut, coalfield bondo hoy gol sob. Only one PIL doi pilai. Apuni kyo pane? Why you have not been able to do? I do not know.
Why you cannot do it for everything?
We'll take it over a cup of coffee. Let us not
see. So you cannot file this thing. You can file a PIL, but I am talking about my individual rights.
Yes.
I cannot fight it on individual
We
rights.
all have to fight for individual
I
rights.
cannot fight because the law does not provide that. Law does not provide it.
Okay, so here is where I'm taking the power of the moderator, and with all due respect,
Unending process.
with all due respect, and this was such a interesting discussion, and I had more questions lined up wanted to ask the panelists. Some of the panelists really wanted to make a closure remarks as well, but then my apologies first of all if we cannot do that. But whatever came out from this discussion are going from a northeastern perspective, from the perspective on climate action. I think we had a very, very fruitful interaction. There are a lot of people in the audience who are coming with great experience, very good insights, perspectives. We will have a tea break, I suppose, where we will engage with them, and let us continue this conversation. This is not a one-off event. Let's have, let's build the momentum, let's build this community so that this community move forward. And we will all look forward towards, for this year's EarthCare Awards. We will look forward a lot of nominations, a lot of entries from this region on community action as well as on 5 other categories. And there is a new category which is on youth. So please share your, if you want to nominate anyone for the youth category award, please get in touch with JSW Foundation and Times of India Group as well as, Think Through Consulting for any queries around the awards. Thank you for such a lovely audience, and thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, panelists. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay, for conducting the discussion so well, and also we'd like to thank all our panelists for such an insightful session. And now I'd like to request Mr. Ajay to felicitate our speakers. Well, that was a very interesting session, and also we have to remember that this is not just a networking event, but like Dr. Misra already pointed out in his speech, it is more like a networking platform to bring together climate crusaders. So we'll now disperse for a short tea break for 15 minutes. We'd like to request all of you to kindly come back here, because we have with us Shrimati Laya Madhuri, Secretary, Science and Technology and Environment Council, and also Dr. Purnima Devi Burman, who's going to give a presentation on the coexistence of people and adjutant in Assam. So yes, see you after the tea break, everyone.
Thank you so much, and it was very inspiring discussion. I learned a lot. And when I actually, especially one thing that attracted me to come here about the theme today, that together, resilience together, building resilience together. So, and then, so I'd like to, Sanjukta asked me to share my journey, conservation journey of last 15 years. So I want to share my journey with this first slide. You can see this Hargila wedding. Can you see everyone? Hargila wedding. So you might be wondering what is this Hargila wedding, what's happening there. It was just last week activity. Our communities were celebrating a big wedding for the Hargila birds. Then again you might be thinking why, and this might be a very non-scientific approach. So what is the speciality? Why it's important? Here I want to mention about that coexistence and the bonding and the ownership. That is important, ownership. How come it possible? How come it possible? Why our communities are celebrating a Hargila wedding? And this is a non-breeding season of the bird. The birds are not found in the village now. Then why our communities are busy in this stuff, in these activities? So that tells about the bonding between communities, that ownership, that they can go to that level, go up to that level, that they think Hargila birds as their own children, like as their daughters, because the birds have left now the villages for again 4 or 5 months, and they will come again. So now they are alone, the birds are not there, and they think that the Hargila birds, like their daughters, they celebrated this wedding, and then these daughters will come again for breeding, for their babies, like we being a woman, like I go to my mother's home, like they will also come, and this is the bonding. So that I wanted to share with you. So this is the coexistence, and Hargila bird I want to show you in a different way now, because I think it's important. So again, another activity, I will before can you please hold it here, just for a while, yeah, just for a while. So can you please come here, just for a while. So before I start my conservation journey, I want to do an exercise with all of you, and I'm sure you would love to join, right? So let's start. Please put your hands like this. Just imagine, thank you so much. Just imagine this is the beak of the Hargila birds. And imagine Hargila birds as big as about your size, as tall as about your size, right? So, and this is the beak of the Hargila birds. And I'll do some sounds, you can join me, right? Ready, all of you? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Tak, tak, tak. Again, tak, tak, tak. Tak, tak, tak. Once more, tak, tak, tak. Tak, tak, tak. Now say fast with me. Tak, 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 tak. Say please, start. Tak, 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 tak. Why the sound is so low? Please. Tak, 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 tak. Thank you so much. I think it will go to the whole wall for the coexistence bonding, right? Thank you so much. And this is the, this is the sound when generally Hargila birds are mute, but they do these sounds during the breeding season. And this is called bill clattering, like two bamboos, and you do this tap tap. It's called bill clattering, okay? You will remember bill clattering, okay? Thank you. So, So this I always want to share, this coexistence bonding, and I think the world is so beautiful because we all are connected with this single thread, and it might not be seen, but we all are holding each others, we all are holding our biodiversity, we all are connected, and we all often call it as Mangalmay Hanti Jal in the village, and we play this, and it's so meaningful, and it's so vibrant, and it gives us a hope. So this is the Hargila bird, greater adjutant stork. You can see the babies, how beautiful they are, and just before a while we became Hargila birds, right? And now you can feel. So they are endangered birds, and global population is now about 2,000 birds, and they are, when I started my journey, I always I always found that people talk about the mega species like rhinos, tigers, and species like Hargila, not only Hargila, but many species like Joyaditya was mentioning about the turtles. So these species are always ignored. They don't steal the show. So we have to come forward. Our little girl like her, our future generation should come forward to give voice for these unsung heroes, right? Thank you. So these are some distribution, but I won't go much details in that part. So this is again, you can see, I would like to tell you something. I think I don't remember the year, but yes, one very famous ornithologist wrote, and he mentioned that Hargila bird is an ugly bird. And how one can, in village it is different, but a very big scientist and ornithologist, how someone can term one species as ugly bird. So I want to challenge that, and I want your team, I want your hands with me, this bonding to challenge that. And you might be thinking that our movement is successful, but I still have to work on that. Not only for Hargila birds, how someone can term some species as not beauty. How someone can say like this? This is a question for me all the time, and I always want to challenge that. So, and you might be again questioning me why this is so important bird. So this is you can see, so like vultures, they are our cleaner birds. They are our nature's cleaning crews. They clean our environment, and that's why they are important. And everything started, how it started, like in 2007, I came to a village called Dodora for doing my PhD, and I was desperate to do my PhD at that time. And during that day, I had a life-changing encounter. I had a life-changing event with a person, and I saw a man cutting down a huge nesting tree, and all these baby birds fell down. And that day I was questioning myself that research would not be enough, PhD would not be enough. I paused my PhD, and I started, since that day actually my mission started with more than 10,000 families in villages in Assam. And I started working for this bird. And more I visited people, more people, many people started, even at that time I was a mother, and it was very stressful for me. Many people, when they saw me, they treated the Hargila bird as bad omen, a disease carrier, a messy bird, and they even put their hands on their nose to tell me, like I felt very stressed those days, how it can happen. And every time there was an answer that was striking my mind, a solution that Hargila bird should be in our culture, in our tradition. And today I am going to share with you this power of communities. Power of communities, the story, how the fate of a species can be changed from a bad omen to a cultural icon. And I think that is the power of communities. And then we started working with communities, and I always realized that some conservationists, I think Parthada was mentioning that conservationists go to a village or go to an area and work with communities, and they always treat us as alien. That should not happen, continue anymore. So they are our communities, we have to collaborate with them, we have to make friendship with them, we have to collaborate with them. They are the stakeholders. We just wait, we have to learn from them, right? and they should be in the front. We are a part only, and so that just I want to say. So many conservationists, even like they know everything, they have the solution, they have a project, they go to a village, they know everything, they have that knowledge, they have everything, and they go and they do never give stake to the stakeholders, to the communities. How can it happen? So we should be very sensitive. We should be very conscious about that. Our communities, we have to make them the forefront heroes, and we have to develop the ownership. And so you can see, like, yeah. So then we started this 24 hours restless event, like all the campaigns with communities, and not a single day we missed. We didn't miss any opportunity to create awareness for the Hargila. And yeah, I think, yeah, I started with Pitha competition. Many conservationists, I think Pathada will know, many conservationists started laughing at me. So Purnima, what are you doing? You have to be a scientist, you have to do your PhD. But I found this is a solution, because I wanted to bring the women. They are the forefront leaders. They are the change makers. I wanted to bring the women, but they never came to my meeting. So they always ignored. And the answer was that they have many household chores at their home and they can't join. Then I found this solution. I started organizing Pitha competition for them, and they started coming like anything. And this hit, and yeah, so this way actually we started becoming friends, and this way we started working. Now, just before a while, I invited you to our Hargila wedding, but now I have another question. Have you ever visited to a baby shower of a bird? You should come to our Hargila Panchamrit. It is like a movement now, massive movement. Hargila Panchamrit. It's like a baby shower, and we celebrate Hargila baby shower. We celebrate Hargila Panchamrit like the way we celebrate for our Assamese expecting mothers. So did you like the idea? And it works like anything. So earlier, when the birds came, people, as there was a belief that Hargila bird is a bad omen, people chase them away, or people cut down the trees. But when our women started celebrating baby shower, started Hargila Panchamrit, now they become so emotionally sensitized for the bird. We don't need to tell them, do not cut down the trees. They know that they are beloved Hargila birds for whom they are celebrating baby shower. So they are on the trees, and they have to be the saviors of the trees, right? So this way we are working together. And here, I think I don't need, but sometimes when I go outside of my state, people keep asking me about the Panchamrit, and I always show them about our kheer and all the tradition. And in my entire journey, I learned that conservation is a part of our culture, and we always should be so respectful to our culture, and we don't need to go beyond that. We can do a lot by involving we can do a lot by being in our culture. For example, by being in our culture, we created awareness, right? So slowly and slowly, people ask, Purnima, what is Hargila Army? How Hargila Army formed? I don't have any answer. It happened spontaneously. One day we realized that we formed Hargila Army, a all rural women army team. All the homemakers converted into conservationists. And I'm so proud now to share with you that we have more than 10,000 rural women as Hargila Army. I'm so proud. And I don't know how it happened. It's magical. There is a power in communities. So I request all our youngsters to go and meet our communities, respect them, and work with them. And it's magical. I tell you, it's magical. So yeah, so our work is an integration of science, pride, culture, empowerment, protection. And I think conservation should be a package of everything, of all these things. And so we have a program called Communities Teaching Communities. So generally what we do, our many conservationists, we go and teach them why. They should be the teacher, they should be the the educators. So we have this communities teaching communities program, and our women, they feel so proud. They are the educators and they have their own action. Basically, Hargila Army is a sisterhood model. It's a sisterhood network among our village women, and each of them have their own action. And we have a motto that our environment education begin from our own home, from our own backyard. For example, let's protect the tree in our backyard. So that's why our Hargila Army movement is so successful, because it starts from our own home. It's not that they have to go somewhere else. So they can relate it. They can relate everything very well. So I just want to share about some women's story, just briefly. Like Lovita always thinks that Hargila Army changed her life. Her husband keeps calling me that you means Hargila Army changed my wife's life. See, they feel that it's like a rehabilitation. All the meetings, like they, even if they were stressed for some reason, they feel it very powerful. Likewise, Doiboki Baido, she is a very famous educator. So Doiboki Baido, and she had lots of struggles in her life and lots of stigma. But now, like Hargila Army changed her life and empowered her, and she through this communities teaching community program, she empowers many people, many women. So we are so infectious. So we also go to the wedding. Just before a while, I mentioned about Hargila wedding. We also go to our human wedding, and and go with this campaign. Earlier, I remember sometimes we were fired also. What? How can you do that? But we are very infectious, and we will do. And I think consistency is the key, and being obstinate, that we will get it done anyhow. And now, when there is a village, I feel like an event management, Baido, do you have any team? We have a wedding, you can come and do some activity. And it gives me hope. And I immediately call my team, and they go. And we have so big team now, so they all keep doing this. So yeah, so then this is a Hargila rally in Gita Bhagavat procession, where people come on the street, thousands and thousands of people, and we collaborate with the committee and do. So why I'm sharing this is the transformation, like from a bad omen, how this is a symbol of pride, symbol of our culture. So so these are some art, maybe our little youngsters, they would love it, so we create this. So we have lots of pride campaigns. So like from one village to another village, we take pledge, and our work is not only saving the bird, it is also empowering thousands and thousands of women, giving them livelihood opportunities. We have Stork Sisters Deeparville store at Deeparville, where our women can sell their products, and so you can see our Hargila Gamosa. It's so famous now. It's like a brand, Hargila Gamosa. I would like to work with Joydeep Da on that also. I was planning, so I'll speak to him later. So, and this is available all over the world through online platform. And now sometimes we cannot give, because it has a huge demand. And we are trying to give them as much as possible. Many people from abroad keep coming, work with us. For example, Susana from Mexico, she came through Women in NASA Network, and I just wanted to share. Like I have my friend, Mayures, please introduce yourself. Mayures came from University of West London for filming on our work. Maybe he can. He is from Mumbai, and he is staying with us for 1 month. Like Mr. Sir was talking about the youth example, I was thinking about Mayures. He was staying here for, I think, 1 year, right? 2 years in Guwahati. He is from Mumbai, and he fell in love with the biodiversity of Assam, and then he went to again England for his course, so that he can come back and give back. So that is actually one example. I was thinking about it, So so during COVID time, we tried to support our women as much as possible. And now I have another news to share. So you can see in Design Museum in London, now, like till September, this is our Hargila Army headdress, and this is our dress. It is being displayed in the Offbeat Sari Festival, where they have displayed 90 dresses of India, and so they have selected this Hargila Army dress, and I'm really honored. I can't believe this actually. And then many other museums after this keep contacting me that they will keep doing this. And so this is for 6 months, but they want to continue this, and in different countries also. And I'm always ready. Yeah, so it's like I think I'm honored, and it's a good news for Assam also, and especially for our Hargila Army. So yeah, we put our products online, available through this pasupakshi.com, and many countries, people from many countries, they purchase and support our communities. So this is one way. This is a way to support our communities sustainably, because we always avoid cash giving. So these are the ways by which we can support our communities. And we also work a lot with our future youngsters in the local schools, and this is one of our major programs. And so we also do lots of campaigns in the assemblies and all, and we also try to do some works in the garbage dump area, and yeah, lots of programs. Actually, we have a Fast Kids program, and we have a Hargila Learning Center at Posoria Kukhalkor High School. And in 2021 we launched it, and this way we are trying to educate our communities, and especially all the children. So these are some comics. Why I'm sharing this, because this is also the bonding of communities. Like 4 years girl Dia, she saw a bird falling down from a nest, and then she called our team, and then we rescued the bird, and then again rehabilitated, and we gave the name of the bird as Dia. And so then we made a comic on her, and like everyone in the village celebrated when we invited Deputy Commissioner and inaugurated this comic. So just wanted to share with you the bonding, like how our communities love. And so this way, so we also work very closely with district administration and Kamrup police, and it's very important to work always with government stakeholders. They are the main stakeholders, and it's very important to submit them data and about the status of the work time-wise. So this is also a part of the protection of the saving the species. We put nets under the nesting tree, and then we rescue the Hargila babies. Recently on 13 May, it was Mother's Day, we released a bird whose name was Tiku, so we released it. So this way you can see what are the green clothes there. These are the nets which we put on the nesting trees, and the baby birds fall down, and then we rescue them. So our Hargila Army Baideo. So this way, more than 400 baby birds so far we have successfully rehabilitated. But it's very tough job to raise a Hargila bird and rehabilitate, because they fall down from a very tall tree. So we are trying to do as much as possible, and I have a very dedicated team now, youth team in the village, who are engaged in this rescue. So now what's this? I want to share with you, I think all our women friends would love it. This is my 100-feet bamboo platform, which as I told you that I paused my PhD, but again I started this later, and not only for PhD but also for other study. So this is my 100-foot bamboo platform, which I climb every day. And I stay there on the top, camouflage myself, and study the breeding behavior of the bird. And that picture I shared with you first with the babies. It is from my bamboo platform, and this is divine. It's magical to observe the breeding behavior of the bird. It is really magical. I think it is not only for Hargila but for any wildlife, right? So yeah, so this we also experimentally form some nesting platform, and I think for all the young minds, I want to share that you have to be very innovative and experimental, right? So we did this experimental nest platform, and it worked, and this way we raised more than 5-6 in the wild. So now you might be questioning me, Purnima, what is the result of all these works? So my answer would be yes. Its result is really rewarding. Our communities have stopped cutting down the trees. Our communities have planted more and more trees, and more than that, the ownership. They treat Hargila bird as their own children. You can see the wedding, you can see the Panchamrit, and it's like a calendar. So every day, I think our Hargila army, our communities live for Hargila. And so this is some, today I am not going to much details in data and all, but the population increased by double in last 15 years. This is only because of the community effort. And nest numbers, when I work in the village, there were 27 nests, and now in the villages, Dodora, Posoria, Singimari, we have more than 250 nests. And these are also expanding, and we are also working in Morigaon and other areas in Assam, and we have a very dedicated team for that. I'm thankful to all of them. And now again, the theme that you have mentioned, I again want to highlight that. So like in the last 15 years, my whole definition of conservation is changed. So it is all about people, it is all about people building ownership. I always tell our youngsters that conservation is not a rocket science. It is all about nurturing our young minds, nurturing our communities, empowering our communities. And please try to involve more women, because they are the biggest decision makers, and they are the change makers, and each woman can educate their home. So it's so important, right? So we have this Hug Tree campaign, and I request all of you to whenever you get a tree, just hug the tree and feel it. And if you want, please write to me, or you can keep it within yourself also. It's really divine and magical. And so this is the lesson learned, that biggest lesson I learned, that consistency. Now it is non-breeding season, but every day we are working, because in the non-breeding season, sometimes we may think that there is no work now, but then there might problem happen. So, but we have to be consistent every day. That is the biggest lesson I learned, that perseverance and consistency is that lage raho is the key for everything. And this is not the ending, we are just beginning. We have to work a lot, and we have still a big vision for working on Hargila and other species of storks also, and for biodiversity as a whole. So so I just finally I want to mention, I'm really very thankful to the organizer for putting this theme today. That's why I think I came here. So community conservation is a never-ending process. So let's start this journey, never-ending journey. So thank you so much, and you can I think, if for the youngsters, you can follow us on our social media page. This is for the youngsters. So if you want, and so thank you so much, everyone. And I'm very happy to team up with all of you, and very honored. And if you have any questions, I'm there. So this is it is open for discussion now. Thank you so much. And again, talk. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We can't just let you get off the stage. And well, I take this opportunity on behalf of everyone, the youth as well, for thanking you for the amazing work. It is so inspiring. Of course, we can all do our bit to contribute to our environment, our climate, and our world. And now I'd like to request Rupa ma'am from JSW to please kindly come onto the stage and felicitate Dr. Purnima. Yeah, yes, ma'am. You'd like to ask any questions? Could you please stand up?
What are the difficulties that you have faced? Because could you highlight, because of course আপনি গৈ পিনে এইখিনি মানুহক বুজাইছেগে তাৰ এটা টেবু আপুনি ভাঙিছে সেইটো আপুনি কৰিবলৈ আপুনি কিখিনি হাৰ্ডশিপ পালে অকমান আমাৰো হেল্প হৈ যায় এইটো কাম কৰিবলৈ কাৰণ আপুনি একদম ভিতৰ গাঁওবিলাকৰ কাম কৰিছে and that's we should all applaud because working into villages itself is a big problem but you did it so really proud I could really resonate the work so could you please
Yeah, so first thing that I learned that I told already actually, if you did not miss it, consistency. It was really, you all know more than me. It's really very tough, but if you are determined, everything is easier. And I always keep telling that our work is like that Ludo khela jenuka, dice to hapor khel to. বহুত উঠিলে এতিয়াও মোৰ তেনেকুৱা যে it go up and down but there is a joy also and you can learn a lot and be very optimistic and positive I think I think there's those days when I was visiting home to home and the people had a taboo for the bird people had many people had doubt why this lady come to my backyard they also why she come to my backyard every day they also think that this tree might be she might take my tree she might take my land this was initial days but you have to be consistent every day you should have that power right to when you go every day when they see you when they see your honesty definitely they will trust you like anything never I had also some problems sometimes but I always tried to face for example that day when I had a encounter one person cut down the tree I was there I came home I had 2 babies my hiyapahi I had twin daughters 2.5 years old at that time I did not start my work also I was just pursuing my I was just writing my synopsis and I didn't know anything about conservation I went there and I had that incident and when I came back home I could have thought that no I am not going to do this right there are so many problems because I was mocked like anything I could have stopped but what I learned later I learned it but you always have to face the incident I went there on the next day I made the person I made that family dada please accept me as your family member I want to clean your backyard so then they told me that no you are my guest you are our otithi you are our guest so you should not do like this so I faced that and I told that dada that you have to be my guide we can work together so that is the power of communities I learned but thing is that from that incident what I learned and what I continuously did it that whenever you have problem never run away always be there always try to be there then it makes a difference thank you so much I think you can ask Jerry. I Thank you so much. So, I did not exactly get your question, but still I would try to answer from my capacity. See, Hargila, like no animal go and take a plastic. No, they are not eating plastic. What happens to Hargila? Sometimes I and Maurice was studying, observing that there are some viscera like mass mangkho ba bilak nari bhuru ebilak plastic or packet dog to amar hoy, like dog to amar hoy. Yeah hoy hoy মই আকৌ কৈছো সেই হাৰগিলাটোৱে নাজানে যে প্লাষ্টিকটোৰ ভিতৰৰ আসল বস্তুখিনিহে জানে তাৰ ভিতৰত তাৰ খাদ্যবোৰ আছে সো সেই খাদ্যখিনি খাওঁতে কেতিয়াবা মিষ্টেকত সেই প্লাষ্টিকটো খাই দিয়ে আদাৰৱাইজ তেওঁলোকৰ খাদ্যবোৰ বেলেগ বেলেগ এইটো খাই স্কেভেঞ্জাৰ বাৰ্ড হয় কিন্তু আমিতো হাৰগিলা বাৰ্ডক শিকাব নোৱাৰো আমি আমাক শিকাব পাৰো আমাক শিকাব লাগিব সেগ্ৰিগেশ্যন আমি এনিমেলক শিকাব নোৱাৰো আমি নিজকে জীৱশ্ৰেষ্ঠ বুলি কিয় কৈছো আমি আসলে নিজকে জীৱশ্ৰেষ্ঠ বুলি আমি কোনে বা কৈছে এইটো নাজানো যদি আমি কৈছো তো আমি নিজকে এডুকেট কৰিব লাগিব এটো চেঞ্জ বিগিন ফ্ৰম আৱাৰসেলফ ইচ অফ আস থ্যাংক ইউ
Thank you, ma'am.
মই মানে actually when I have a very small question to you আৰু এটা মানে confession যে খালি you cannot just steal the model. I tried to steal Purnima's model for turtle and it did not work for me. You have to steal the personality as well. That I could not. So yeah. So now the question I was asking, I keep on photographing throughout Guwahati everywhere. So the one very important thing I noticed in Hargila, the recognition of human recognition. I don't know, Purnima can give better idea. Garbage dump, those people who are collecting garbage day in and day out, they can go like 1 meter close to Hargila. Like Hargila's, the beak is almost here. They are standing in the garbage. But if we go with this dress, I'll tell you the story also. This dress, they will also not, they will go that 100 meter, they will fly. Theek hai, I done. What I did, I went with a lungi and genji. I just mimic their dress. That whoever is like garbage dump, teoluke jeep India asile whatever they were wearing, I also went wearing that. So to see, is it because of the dress they recognize or what is that they are recognizing? Still the Hargila flew away. So they were actually recognizing individuals who are just garbage picking. So you have any like idea like of that? Murtu hua nahi. Thank you so much. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. With this, we come to an end to today's event. And yes, please do visit our website. That's www.earthcareawards.com to know about the categories, past winners, and surely participate. And let the world know about your initiative. Let me once again thank our esteemed speakers, all our guests on behalf of JSW and the Times of India, and our partners for being a part of this discussion that sets the tone for the 11th edition of Earth Care Awards. With this, I will take your leave I'm Stuti Chaudhary. It was wonderful being a part of this. So yes, thank you JSW and Times of India for making me a part of this beautiful, beautiful event. And yes, lunch is served outside. Please enjoy your lunch. Whatever questions and discussions you'll have with our speakers, you all can clear it outside. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon and evening.